Hey everybody, how are you doing this afternoon? Hope everybody's doing well. Give just a second for all the waiting room folks to come in. Everybody in? Good. All right. So we're going to talk about the Truman Scholarship today. And so I appreciate you all taking some time to be with us here today. If you can't hear me or you're having some trouble with the connection, we have somebody monitoring the chat, so please feel free to leave a comment. Also, please feel free to leave questions that you may have in the chat feature. I'll stop for questions a couple of times to check in with Tina, who's monitoring the chat with us as we go through. But what we're going to do today is, as I said, talk a little bit about the Truman Scholarship Workshop. You're black up here. So my name is Craig Filer. I'm an Associate Dean in Undergraduate Studies here at Florida State University. I've been working in the Fellowships Office for 16 years now. So this is probably the 16th time I've given this presentation. I enjoy working with the Truman Scholarship. I enjoy working with the students who are applying for the Truman Scholarship. This is a scholarship all about public service and students who want to give back in some substantive way over the course of their careers. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what the scholarship is, what the office does, and also how to go through the application process and what the application process entails. Plus, we'll wrap up with a couple of other programs that are related in spirit to the Truman Scholarship right at the end. And as I mentioned, we will have a couple of places for questions as we go through. So first, what we like to do is talk a little bit about why you would want to work with the Office of National Fellowships. And you can see that on the slides that we have for you here. I would point at them, but you all can see them. You're all remote. So one is these application processes. They help you to gain clarity about your personal values, your academic goals, your career goals, the things that you're wanting to do with your life, and to give voice, clear, articulate voice to them. And that comes through improving your writing ability and your communication skills. This will prepare you for graduate school, for professional school, and all the things that you want to do post-graduation. They will help you as you build your networks and explore your networks both on and off campus, as well as introduce you to other potential future fellowship opportunities. So the Truman Scholarship, as I mentioned, it's really for students wanting to go into careers in public service. And you can see their official language here on the slide. The way that they talk about this, so the word that they use over and over again is they like to find change agents. They want to find people who see an issue and see a way to make an impact on the solution to that issue and try and find ways to enact it. They like people certainly who dream big, but they also like people who know how to get at the grassroots level, roll up their sleeves, and get to work. And what they do once they identify you, as you see here, they provide you financial support. You can see at the bottom there, that's $30,000 towards graduate studies in a public service related graduate degree. That can also be medical school. That can also be law school. It can be towards a master's degree, towards a PhD, whatever it happens to be. They're also going to give you leadership training, and that comes through the Truman Scholars Leadership Week. They have a Summer Institute, a Truman Fellows program, and they want to connect you with the network of Truman Scholars. The program is over 50 years old, and there are Truman Scholars all over the country, in fact, all over the world at this point, who are dedicated to supporting the next classes of Truman Scholars as they come up. So let's start with some nitty-gritty data pieces. So eligibility, it's really important that you're eligible for the award before you undertake the award. This application, as well as many of the ones that we work with, they do take a lot of work. And we don't want you, well, you will get a lot of benefit out of working on this application, whether you are eligible or not. We certainly want you to be eligible for the awards that you're applying for. So for Truman, you can see here on the left-hand side, there we go. You do have to be a U.S. citizen. I'm going to go to the last part first. You do have to be enrolled full-time in the semester of application. And so technically that semester is spring. We'll talk about the timeline in just a little bit. And you must be a junior. Now, I will explain this and probably circle back to it again towards the end. Junior is not by credit hours as far as Truman is concerned. Many of you on this Zoom today probably have enough credits to graduate today, I would guess, because you bring in a lot. A junior for the Truman Scholarship is someone who is in their third year of college. In other words, if you started college in fall of 2023, and fall of 2025 is your third year on campus. This is your eligibility year. You could graduate early this year, possibly, or you would be graduating either in fall of 26 or spring of 27, but you must be in your third year. If you're on this call and you are starting your second year, that is great. If you're on your first year, that is also great, because you will know about this award, but it is not your eligibility window. Students will often ask, but I'm graduating in 3 years. It's my junior year. If you look again at how they're defining junior, it is not your junior year. Junior year for Truman is your third year. And it's a pragmatic thing as well. If you have the credit hours in your second year to be a junior, you don't have that extra year of experience. And so you will not be competitive compared to the folks who are applying. And so if you're in your third year, you're a full-time student and a US citizen, this is your window. If it's not your window, we still want to talk to you, even though your window may still be yet to come. Now, the career aspirations, again, you'll see right here, we put the change agent language in here, and they want you to work in government, education, or the nonprofit or public interest advocacy sector to improve conditions in an area that's passionate to you. And then you have to be wanting to go on to earn a master's degree, doctorate degree, professional degree, law school, med school, what have you. The way that they often explain it to us, if you're wondering, one second, is that if you are planning on working at a .gov, a .edu, or a .org, this is an award for you. So a .gov, a .org, or a .edu, this is an award for you. If the company that you're planning on working for is a .com, it is a private company and probably a for-profit and not going to be exactly what this award is looking for. All right, so the eligibility when it comes to the application, or the things that they are really looking for in the application, you can see here it is very widely cast. They're looking for folks who have involvement with organizations and activities related to your own particular interests, that you have leadership potential, academic performance, that you're socially conscious, that you're doing related coursework, that you have some government experience. All of these things are working together. All of you are going to bring them in different proportionalities. So I don't want you to look at this list and be like, well, I haven't necessarily done this or I haven't necessarily done that. Don't worry about that at this point. I would much rather you think about the things that you are bringing to the table and how they relate to what Truman is looking for. And then we can have a conversation to see how all the pieces fit together. Looking at the bottom of the slide, I think this is a much better litmus test. You can see here they have 4 things listed, and they're really looking that you participate in at least 2 of these 4 areas in substantive ways. And so the first one is campus-based, student government or campus-based curricular activities, or put another way, your .edu activities. Then you see the second bullet, which is community service-related activities that are not organized by school or by fraternity sorority. These are your .org experiences. What are the things you're doing in your communities? And then the last 2, you can see government internships, commission boards, military ROTC, partisan political activities. These are your .gov activities. So much like the careers should be in the .edu, .gov, .org range, your activities will also be supported by organizations that have websites that end in .gov, .org, or .edu. Okay, so the application, and it's a long one, and I'm not going to lie about that. And I know that most of the students who undertake this application, they go through sort of many stages with it. Fear, then they go through some grief about it, and then I think there's usually some anger, usually directed at me, like, how could you make me do this? This is so much. And then they usually come to a place of great appreciation of what this application is asking you to do. I think it's an amazing tool that you will get so much out of regardless of the outcome of the application process. And that is really what we're going for here. This award, along with so many of the awards that we work with in the Office of National Fellowships, are highly competitive. We want students to submit the best work that they can that is the strongest and strongestly articulated version of who they are in relationship to what the application is looking for, so that regardless of the outcome, you have that material. When we do that, we find students do really well in the process. And then students will win. But again, highly competitive. And so we work in 2 spaces simultaneously. We work in this space of keeping our feet grounded and trying to focus on creating the strongest application materials with the aspiration of somebody's got to win, and damn it, it might as well be me, right? And that's how we'll work on this application together. You can see here, technically here for you all, it's over there in case you're wondering, that's how I'm cheating. The different pieces are, basically there's three. There's the first bullet, which is list. The first 6 questions on the essays are lists. This shouldn't be surprising. You have to list high school, college, civic, professional, government activities. There's a list for education. There's a list for awards. Listing. It's basically providing your resume information. The second bullet and the third bullet, these are the short answer essays. There are essays about leadership, about service. There's essays about your future plans. And then you have to do a policy proposal. And so these 3 different sections all come together to form a strong application. We're going to talk about the essays in a little more detail, but I like to do that first slide to sort of group them together for you. So if you decide to work on this application, we have a very set way that we usually take about it, sort of a syllabus almost, if you will, of like the way we tackle the various pieces of these, and it comes in sections. As I mentioned, there are resume listing sections. We usually don't worry about those until October because those are pretty much transferring information from places that you already have. We want to do that once we understand the case you're making for yourself to be a Truman Scholar. You will have a lot of different potential things that you could write about, but we want to make sure that the listing things support the things that you're writing about. So we start with the writing. We usually start with these first 3. So the first one is a specific example of your leadership. The second one's an example of your public service. And the third is a problem or need in society you want to address when you want to enter public service. So what you would be thinking about then is, well, to you, what is leadership and what is service and how have you demonstrated it? I usually say when I sit down with students for the first time and talk to them, and if you sit down with me, I will probably say this again. Most students first think about leadership in relationship to positions that they've held. This is not incorrect, but it's also not complete. And so certainly think about different boards you may have sat on, different leadership positions you may have held, but also think a little bit more broadly about what leadership is. And are there places where you may have led where there was no position involved around it at all? Also, are there times when you may have attempted something and been a leader, but it also has failed? Those are also sometimes very satisfying or a very fertile place to go to for writing. In a similar way, the public service activity, the first place people will usually start are where have I logged serve script hours? Again, not incorrect, but also not always complete. And so when you're thinking about public service, it also is good to start with, well, what are you or how are you thinking about public service as a concept? How are you defining it? And then how do you want to illustrate your ability to accomplish that? And then the third one in this set is the problem or need in society you want to address when you enter public service. They're not looking for a big essay here. Each of these essays is about a paragraph long, but it's basically an introduction, an abstract almost, about a problem that you're interested in. This one, they like to actually see data. They like to see that you've done research on it. They like to almost have it be the introduction to a longer paper of some sort. The rest of the application, it's very about you. It's a lot of I sentences, which is a different way of writing that a lot of people are used to. But the problem or need in society essay, that one is a lot more familiar to folks in terms of style, because there you are actually writing about an issue, and it's the issue that takes front and center stage. You can see the fourth bullet, it's about the 3 most significant courses you've taken. That one is more of a listing question. But then we have 3 more questions right here, 1, 2, 3, that are about your future. We usually put these together. So what's the grad program? The one that Truman will be helping to pay for. What position do you have once you finish that program? And then what position do you have 5 to 7 years later? This is your 10-year plan, all right? The 10-year plan is not a contract. I always like to point that out. A lot of students are scared to put something in ink, something that looks permanent, because they're like, I don't know, this is 3 years from now, 8 years from now. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Everybody understands that. What you're going to use is a very specific path for yourself, a specific narrative and story to illustrate your potential based on the foundation you're stating with the other essays. And so the graduate education program should lead clearly to the position, and that position should lead to what is the next position on that career trajectory. What they don't want to see in the graduate education program is I'm going to attend law school so that I can pursue public interest law because I want to do advocacy for immigration rights. That's good philosophically, but what they want to see is I want to attend the University of Virginia Law School, where they have one of the most preeminent professors in immigration law who is named Professor so-and-so, who's published papers on X, where I will get to do research on Y, and they have a center for this. They want to know that you've done your research. You pick a school and you detail what that journey for you would be like in that school. Similarly, with the positions, you're going to map out, with our help, a very specific plan for you so that you get a 10-year plan. And then there's a personal statement, which is this last one, which is what is the personal information you want to share with the Truman Scholarship Foundation? Usually that's the one we write last, because this one needs to sort of tie all of the other pieces together, or it answers the question, I suppose, of why should I, the reviewer, care that you care so much about the thematic issues that you're bringing forward in this application. Now, again, I said there's a lot here, there's a lot to take in. We know how to work with folks in the office to sort of break this up into pieces, so it's actually very manageable, so that you can slowly realize, oh, I have a very strong application. Or honestly, sometimes, I'll just go ahead and throw this in because I set myself up for it. Sometimes somebody will work halfway through the application and they'll realize, oh, I've learned something about myself here, and it doesn't align with what Truman's doing, and so this may not be a good fit. And that's also a successful application as far as I'm concerned, because then you've learned something, you're able to articulate it, and it would probably pivot you towards something else. And that's also a very legitimate outcome to an application. And that usually happens to 1 or 2 students every year that undertakes this and other awards we work with. So, in addition to all that writing, as if that wasn't enough, you do need 3 letters of recommendation. These are not recommendations that you would normally expect. It's not like trying to find recommenders for a graduate program where you need 3 professors. You can see here, certainly one of the letters does need to be academic. That one is usually from a professor. But you can see here, we even put that on the slide, that the leadership letter, which describes your leadership experience, and then the public service letter, which describes your commitment to a career in public service, these are not really expected to be from a professor. They are usually from the person who is best situated to actually talk about that experience. So, say you did an internship in Washington, D.C. over the summer, and you're talking about that as your public service experience, and you're planning on going into the legislature or doing some sort of advocacy work with the government, then you would probably want to talk to the person that you worked for over the summer, and they would be a great place to start for your public service letter. There is a caveat. We cannot accept peer letters, and so if, say, you worked for Dance Marathon, and you're talking about that as your service experience, the chair of Dance Marathon, who is a current student at FSU, they cannot write the letter for you. That is not what the Truman is expecting. And peer letters are really just not a competitive approach to what we're doing here. And so we'd have a conversation and talk about who, as a professional at the university, might be a good substitute to write that letter instead. And then, of course, we'll also need your official transcripts, but the unofficial transcripts are okay for the campus deadline, and we'll talk about the timeline right now. Okay, so before I talk about this, though, questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Question about, can the academic letter be from a research mentor that we didn't have a class with but researched for?
Great question. So the question was, can the academic letter come from a research mentor and not a professor you've had in class? Absolutely. Some of you have probably done Europe, or you've been doing research experiences. You may have had an idea grant. You may be about to start on an honors and a major thesis. All of those folks who can speak to your academic work will be perfect, particularly if, not exclusively necessarily, but particularly if you're looking at a graduate program in the application that is going to have research component to it. So if you're going to be doing a master's program that is a research-based program, letters from a research mentor, it's a great one. So that's a great question. Absolutely. Anybody else? That's it. All right. So good question. So the competition. Us, University of Florida, University of South Florida, University of North Florida, University of Central Florida, Miami, Yale, Harvard, Duke. Every university in the country can nominate 4 students annually. That's it. So that means every university has to have an internal process. The national deadline, which you can see towards the bottom, which is in February, think of it as this. That is my deadline. That is our office's deadline to turn in our nominees. Your deadline, if you choose to submit one, is November 4th. It is a hard deadline. It is not a flexible deadline, but a hard deadline. All of your materials must be submitted on Tuesday, November 4th. That's about 2.5 months from now. 2.5 months is plenty of time. 2 months is actually plenty of time to do one of these applications. Less than 2 months, it's a little bit more work, not impossible. Students that come to me beginning of October, I'm like, yeah, that's probably not going to be possible. As you could probably imagine, you saw how much writing there is to do. But you all being here today, or you may be watching this on the YouTube, if it's still early September, you're in good shape. Reach out. So we've got 4 students we can nominate annually. That means we have an internal process. That means you must turn your materials in by Tuesday, November 4th at 3 p.m. to me. The only way to register in the actual online application is to sit across the office desk from me and have me register you. So you have to talk to me. You might be scared of me. I promise I'm not so bad. You might find me intimidating. I'm kind of intense. I get that. But the way to get in the application is for me to put you in the application. And so even if you're on the fence, let's have a conversation about it, because I think these conversations are worthwhile. Once I put you in the application, you'll be able to submit the application on November 4th. All the folks that submit on November 4th, they will sign up for an interview. The interviews happen in later November. Our campus committee is made of faculty and community members who interview all the folks who submit applications. That committee will then select the 4 nominees. The nominees will be informed before winter break if they are one of the nominees. And then those 4 nominees will continue to work with me and the committee in the month of January to submit their completed applications on Tuesday, February 3rd. Now, if you're from the state of Florida and attending Florida State, you will apply in the state of Florida. Truman gives at least 1 award per state. They usually award around 60 every year. Every state is guaranteed one that has applications whenever possible. And then some states have 2. So we know that somebody from Florida every year will receive the award. But if you're an out-of-state student, we would have a conversation about whether or not to have you apply in Florida, which you'd be eligible for because you attend Florida State. But say you're from Wisconsin, that's where you grew up, you would also have the option to apply in Wisconsin. And we'd have that conversation as well. Interviews are usually held in March. The folks who apply in Florida, our interview is held in Atlanta. These are in-person interviews, and they started those again, I think 3 years ago after COVID. And so we will help you get to the interview. We would help you do interview prep, all that good stuff. So we have traditionally at Florida State been very successful with the Truman Scholarship. We've had over 20 finalists in the 20 years that the office has been open. And we've also had 5 scholars in the past 20 years. The most recent scholar was Abril Hunter in 2022. Abril just finished up her master's degree at Georgetown, which Truman helped with. She is very interested in environmental justice. And has now a master's in public administration and is working in DC. And then Rodney was our Truman finalist in 2024. Rodney just graduated, and he is actually interested in voting rights and has worked in voting rights advocacy issues across the state and the country for the past, gosh, he's been doing this now probably for 6-7 years. And so both great representatives of Florida State and great representatives of what the Truman Scholarship is looking for. So let me stop right there. Questions?
Someone asked, is it worth to continue if he will be abroad in the spring, next spring, 26?
Question is, would it be worth pursuing if the student's going to be abroad in the spring? To whoever the student is, reach out to me. Let's talk, because I don't want you to make a premature decision based on an unsure outcome. In other words, I don't know what your application is going to look like, not knowing who it is. If you're one of the 4 nominees, there may be a possibility, we have a small budget, but there may be a possibility we can get you back if you're a finalist. right? Because there's many levels that you have to reach to before we'd even have to worry about getting you back. And I don't want to throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. Plus, there might be other things you're interested in. So at least reach out, be happy to talk to you, and we can figure out strategically what's the best answer there. So I would say it depends. Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? Awesome. All right. So that's Truman in a nutshell. Take a deep breath. It's a lot. I know that. And I think the important thing is it is up to you to determine your area of public service. They don't have an agenda in terms of they're looking for specific things or specific ways to go about it. They have students from across the political and ideological spectrum apply for the awards. They just want folks who want to bring about change within the system, from outside the system, whatever it is you're about. It can be about environmental justice. It can be about voting. It can be about tax reform. It can be about anything. The general guiding principle is, will you want to end up working at a .gov, a .edu, or a .org? Okay. Now, we have a couple of no, they're not affiliated. That's not the right word. We have a couple of similar awards that are looking for similar types of students and have similar timelines that we just like to point out here, just so that you're aware that there are a few other options. And so the first is a summer program. It's we call it PPIA for short, but the Public Policy and International Affairs Fellowship. This is a summer institute. You can see that the locations there on the third bullet point, sort of in front of them, right here. So the University of Minnesota, Carnegie Mellon, Princeton, UC Berkeley, and U Michigan. This one's usually due right around the same time as the campus deadline for Truman, sometime in early November. And they are looking specifically, as the name would imply, students who are interested in going into either public policy or international affairs. And it is a stipend that will take you to a summer program where they're going to give you intensive coursework and programming in these two areas. The programs at the different schools are a little bit different, and the website will illustrate sort of what those differences are. And if you get accepted to the program, you have sort of in that graduate program, and you can see there that they will give you up to, or at least, I'm sorry, $5,000 towards graduate tuition if you end up going to graduate school at the school you go to the junior fellowship at, if that makes sense. This application, they're looking for similar things. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for service. The application is not quite as long and involved. And so oftentimes students in public policy or students in international affairs who are applying for the Truman will use some of the similar materials and apply for PPIA and find it's a very easy one to overlay without a lot of extra work. Yeah. There's also a program called Humanity in Action, also a summer program. And you can see here, this is around all kinds of countries in Europe. And there's also now a domestic part of this program here in the United States, where it's looking for students who have interest in human rights movement. You can see here discrimination resistance, as well as interests that are affecting different minority groups today around the globe. This one's due in early January, so you have a little bit more time to work on the application. But as with PPIA, this is a summer program. It's a great opportunity for folks who may want to consider some sort of international experience, particularly ones who would much rather have someone pay for them to go overseas than having to pay themselves. And so this one, they change the prompt a little every year because it's usually based on some sort of reaction to or sort of interpretation of a piece of media or a piece of writing. And so this one is always really kind of interesting to see what they choose every year for you to respond to. And then we have an FSU program for students in the College of Social Science and Public Policy, and that's the Social Science Scholars Program. So if you're on this Zoom or watching this video and you're in the College of Social Science and Public Policy, social science major, and you have at least 3 semesters remaining, so ideally, again, those of you starting your 3rd year, I would really have you consider this as well. The deadline is late September, so it comes up much faster. This program is actually amazing. We have a lot of students every year who apply to Truman, who get into social science scholars, who are in the College of Social Sciences. And it would involve taking a class with the faculty in the program next spring. they give you some money to do a project next summer, and then I believe there is a class the following fall for you when you return. This one, the application, it's probably up, but if it's not up yet, it should be in the next week or so. And that's going to be on the College of Social Science website. You can see right there, /SSS. So we need to add your picture, Tina. Hey, we have your picture, right? We have your picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to update the slides, so that's good, we'll do that. We had a little production meeting, sorry about that. So, want to contact us, that's me on the top. Right, and so if you're interested in Truman, certainly send me an email. You can always reach out to the general ONF email at onf@fsu.edu. My email is cfilar@fsu.edu. I have a kind of bonkers schedule at the beginning of the semester, much like a lot of you all, as we're trying to get calibrated to the return. So if you want to talk to me about the Truman Scholarship, I'm happy to do that. I do have some opening next Thursday and Friday if people are back in town, or if you'd like to get on a Zoom call to sort of get ahead of things. Certainly let me know when you email me if you have any time at the end of next week. And then if you could also send me your class schedule or when you'd be available during the school year week, because believe it or not, that's about a week away. And I will try and find us a time to meet in my office once you're back on campus. I will do Zoom meetings the end of next week, but once classes start, unless you're out of town, we do one-on-ones in my office, and we can talk a little bit more about this. I can send you PDFs of the application for you to look at. I'll give you a little bit of homework, things to think about before you come in and talk to me, so we can see if this would be a good fit for you. That first conversation, I have no expectation that anyone who starts investigating the application finishes it. Like I said, my expectation really is if you come and you have an interest, that you just put a little time and effort into it and let us figure out on this journey if this is a good fit for you, because even if it's not, I really do believe that you will learn something about yourself and it'll be really invaluable in that respect. So, any questions? Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for being here today. I hope this was informative. I hope it was useful. If you're finding this online and you give it a look-see, please shoot me an email with some times you'd be available, and hopefully we will see you soon. Have a great fall and go Knowles.